there were some good questions about workflow. Mix Giant asked one, what makes your workflow so fast, shortcuts, methods? It might be cool to just kind of talk about, talk about
the important,
whatever you want. Yeah.
I think the important part of that question is like the answer is in the question. It's workflow, having a workflow. That is the most important thing. You as long as you have some kind of path you're following, once you're on that path, you realize if you need something else or if you need to adapt or whatever, and then constantly adapting. So I feel like the workflow started years ago, the general concept or whatever, and then as you learn more, as your needs change, you just keep adapting. So that's basically how I work, just being organized, like how I keep multiple projects organized and stuff. There's always like, there's an Excel document that goes with every project, Google Docs, numbers, whatever it may be, but there's like a chart, and that kind of keeps track of what version we're on. Oh yeah, and then also I have that session recall software, which is really, really cool.
What is that? I don't know about that.
So I can show you. So basically what it looks like is, put this off real quick. So for every song that I work on, there's like a thing over there, and like you just click on this and like, okay, this is Bumped Her Head, Thug and Gunner from Slime and B. So that's the hardware I had on this song.
Oh, nice.
And that's how every recall for every session works.
Is that hardware in the mix, or is that the recording chain, or what is that?
No, that's the mix. That's the mix. Yeah,
that's
for the
mix.
Yeah. For the mix. The recording stuff is all like, committed, baked in, but like, so that's everything that needs to be recalled for the mix. Basically the recall. And like, I feel like having that and just being organized, and then in the recording process, having a template that opens up quick, that's not gonna glitch on different computers. You don't have a whole bunch of UAD stuff going on your recording template. You don't need it there. None of those plugins are gonna have anything less than 1,000 milliseconds of delay, 1,000 samples of delay, and that's too much. When you're working.
Yep.
I open these sessions and they're like all full of UAD stuff, and then you move between rooms and stuff, and I'm like, dude, you don't need this stuff in your recording template. When the record is done, then it gets mixed. We could do whatever, but and even if you want to do something, like just ways to do it, commit it or freeze it or do something.
It's one of the things that I think people and you and I have talked about. We talked about it last time, and I don't think there's a way to overemphasize it. Preparation and efficiency is gonna, wherever you are, whatever you do in the process, whether you're an engineer, a tracking engineer, a mixer, a producer, even an artist, like whatever, there is something about like getting out of your comfort zone and trying new things, but having your prepared template. So it's like, I have basically what you want in a workflow for creativity and for tracking is the shortest distance between there's an idea and the idea is executed.
Exactly.
And that's psychologically, and then it's also preparation. It's all of these things wrapped in one. When we talk about workflow, we're talking about the quickest path from idea to actually creating it. Do you have things in your recording flow? I know you talked a little bit last time, and I can't remember exactly what you talked about, but you obviously had a lot of skills coming into starting to work with Doug. You'd gone to school, you'd worked on a lot of records.
Yeah.
But then, and so you had a way that you do things because you're like, this is the most efficient, but then it changed a little bit working with him. Does it change with different artists? How do you think about that workflow, the recording part?
I think when it comes to recording, what made me what really helped is that early 2010, like around whatever music was being done in New York at the time, it was a lot of stacks, a lot of R&B, just a lot of just crazy harmonies and stacks that you had to move really quick, that you had to vocal line while you were recording and just be organized and stuff. So all that stuff just made me really quick at Pro Tools. And then Thug, even though it's just one vocal, just moves at crazy speeds because he, whatever his first idea is, he doesn't like to think about it. He just likes to execute it. And that's what gets kept most of the times because he thinks that he feels the first thing you hear on a track is the most inspiring or whatever, and that's what you just have to be. Everything's got to be ready to so I the minute I put like from the basics, you know, you get a track in, a 2-track, and like this is going to help a lot of people. And I've told a lot of people when I meet them. So 2-track gets into the tracking template. First thing, there's always going to be, you have to get it on the beat. You know, there's a little bit of trimming you're going to have to do with MP3s. It gets messed up. Tab to transient, delete the dead space. However you do it, like it should be on the grid.
I mean, getting the 2-track lined up right to the grid.
Right correctly. To the grid. Exactly. Yeah. So that's the first thing you're going to do, and then put the tempo in, and then clip gain that shit down. Don't, like, and I hear people telling me they use a volume fader or whatever, clip gain that bitch down 8 dB to begin with. That's the first thing you're going to do. Now, what that helps with doing is all your waveforms look similar. You know, you're not looking at like a block of like the 2-track isn't a block when you need to make edits.
Interesting.
So visually, I can look at the waveform and be like, okay, those are decent. Like I can tell what's going on, and my vocals, I can look at what's going on. So I'm looking at the 2-track. I can tell when the hook is coming just by looking at the waveform. You know, you kind of
yeah.
But now, if you haven't clip gained that down and you've just volumed it down 15 dB or whatever, the 2-track, because they're all limited, they're all like squashed to death. You just have to do that. That's
and this is so, especially when you're tracking vocals as well. That it doesn't look like the vocals are super small, because you're not going to be smashing the vocals when you're tracking them.
Or then people don't do this and end up not knowing how to balance it, and then end up cranking the preamp. So that's like the first thing. Just clip gain that shit down in your tracking template. Obviously, get the key in, and so the way I have my template is the second slot of inserts and the first one, but it depends if auto-tune's on the first or second, but I just keep it on the second now because you have to have the trim and with DSP sessions or whatever. The first 2 slots of inserts are grouped, and they're grouped in banks. So now if I set the key on one auto-tune, all of them get set, all the retunes, they all follow. That now, so there's like three sets of vocals. So there's the lead vocal, then another one, and another one, all going to separate buses. Now they're all globally grouped as well, but then I can unselect the global group and just vocal group A, which is, let's just call it singer 1 and singer 2, okay, or rapper 1 and rapper 2. Then I have individual control over all of rapper 2's auto-tune settings and 1. So that's all. Like, you don't really need this anymore now that auto-tune has that send to auto-tune feature. But I just think that
what is that feature? I don't know that feature.
Now with the new, if you use auto key, I think it sends it detects the key and it sends it to all the auto-tune. But just I think when you're in a tracking session and you have to option drag the auto-tune over 15 times, it just looks so stupid. You just look so slow and clumsy doing that in a tracking session.
I do that by myself, and I'm sitting there, like click, click, click.
Exactly.
It takes a second. It's interesting. What you're talking about is, again, preparation, and I think
that's all done from before.
Yes, people talk about. I know a lot of people who make great records in Logic, and I can't really speak to Logic in the same way. Obviously, Ableton is now introduced, I think they're calling them lanes, or I don't know, they're calling them their playlist feature. But there are things about Pro Tools that if you are, especially if you are an engineer who does a lot of tracking, and as a producer and writer and mixer, I'm doing lots and lots of vocal tracking as well. Yeah. Pro Tools has such an incredible ability to group and customize, and different types of groups. You can do different parameters on layers of inserts. So it's like you're saying, I think people, I would encourage everybody who's watching this, who's trying to level up, go deep on the Pro Tools grouping.
Yeah, insert groups, and basically you have to deselect, unfollow globals or whatever. Yep. And do that. Yes, I've been using that for a while. There's a lot of new features too, like the folders. That helps so much. VCAs, I'm sure, they're like, I've used them for a while. Some of my engineer friends are like, explain to me why you use them, and I'm like, I don't want to get into this thing. To me, they help. They really help me with my workflow and stuff. So it's there in my mix template, and otherwise you can just make them. There's like, even if it doesn't exist in a template, that doesn't mean it's not there. You know, you can just use it. The template stuff helps. The artist presets, the track presets, all that shit helps to like. And the same thing with the Stream Deck. Like, what I can do with the Stream Deck is, if I have you can press one button and it copies track settings. Okay, then now I have the track settings being the inserts and the sends. 10 inserts and 10 sends get copied. Now I get another option that says paste inserts or paste sends. So I can click on another track and hit paste inserts. So say if it's I say it's a lead vocal and then there's another hook vocal, but it's on a different track. Now instead of option dragging 10 fucking plugins over, one button copies them, one button pastes them. So small things like that I feel like help the workflow and like speed shit up. And I like that kind of shit. You know, I like to like automate as much as I can, like Google Home, Elon Musk display stuff.